All right.
You see us?
I see you at the top of the Zoom. It says live on Facebook. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
All right, good deal. All right, good morning, Black Business Focus Group. This is Phillip Dunn, the administrator of Black Business Focus Group, as well as CEO of To the Table. And I'm joined with me this morning, two very special guests of the Black Business Focus Group of To the Table. The founding members of the Black Business Focus Group and To the Table, attorney Brock White and the empowered pastor himself, Julian Robinson. So I want to welcome them to this new show called Voices of the BBFG, where every month we will bring before you new members or members of the group to kind of share a little bit of information about who they are, what they do, the value that they deliver to our community. So we're really excited about this new information that we're able to provide to you. Don't want to waste too much time today, but I do want to get us started with talking to these two incredible gentlemen. They're both friends of mine, well over 20 years. We went to college together at Sam Houston State, home of the mighty Bearcats. So really proud of these guys. Was very proud also to join with them in developing the Black Business Focus Group. So a lot of the ideas that are on today are a result of the hard work, the dedication, and the talent and knowledge that these brothers put into the group early on. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce these two gentlemen to you. Well, I'm going to have them introduce themselves, Brock White and Julian Robinson. And Brock, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brock White. I am an attorney here in Houston, Harris County, surrounding areas. The name of my firm is Mellott Law PC. Been practicing now for about 18 years. And it's my pleasure to be present this morning with the BBFG as well as To the Table.
I'm Julian Robinson, pastor of the Empowered Church, as well as the CEO of Empowered Marketer. I am grateful to be here this morning, talk about our community in the BBFG and also To the Table. Talk about a little bit how we got started and kind of what we're doing now and how we have some ideas that can help the Black business community move forward. So I'm glad to be here.
Great. Thank you both. Thank you both. You know, you got an interesting set of backgrounds. I wonder if you could tell us how you got started in your various backgrounds. Brock, if you don't mind telling us how you got started being a lawyer.
Sure, no problem. I actually probably knew I wanted to go to law school when I was in elementary school. So when I went to college, I was pretty focused on that goal and trying to achieve that goal. So I went to Sam Houston State University where I met Phillip and I met Julian. After that, I decided to go to Thurgood Marshall School of Law for two reasons. Number one, because of the legacy of Thurgood Marshall himself. Number two, because financially, it was the best school for me. I was one of the few people probably had a little different outlook upon things when I started law school. I started law school with the intention of never working for anyone because I knew, number one, that my ambitions and my goals didn't line up with mainstream or corporate America, and that the things that I wanted to achieve probably weren't the same objectives that they had. So I knew that it was probably in my best interest to open up my own practice once I graduated and to go forth from there. So that's what I did after graduation and have had nothing but, success and been flourishing since.
I like how you said that your dreams, your goals, your values didn't necessarily line up with corporate America. As we know in corporate America, the whole goal of the theory of the firm is to increase wealth for its shareholders. So it's not to increase wealth for its employees, it's not to increase wealth for its vendors, suppliers, or other stakeholders, it's the shareholders. And a lot of shareholders are the 1%, which, oftentimes our community doesn't necessarily participate in the 1% or the benefits of the 1%. So it was very encouraging to hear that you decided to take the path less traveled and really, strike out on your own and to do well for yourself and your family. So I'm glad that you said that. Julian, I wonder if you could tell us how you decided to take the road to pastoring and ministering to our community, as well as becoming a marketer under the Empowered Marketer brand.
Okay. Well, I've been in ministry. I actually celebrate ministry, 20 years of ministry this year, and for the last 5 years or so, I've been in um, the field, I guess, the position of pastor. And what's interesting is I dibbled and dabbled with different things in regards to marketing and website design and all that kind of stuff for a while. But it was really when I started uh, pastoring a church till I realized how important it was to really know how to start and run a business as well as have marketing skills in order to help build the ministry. So all of those things kind of came together and really pushed me to start learning and studying and researching more on that regard. Because if you're going to have anything you're going to start, you're going to have to make sure you have some type of business acumen to do that. So it's really been a very interesting journey to do that. And as far as our community is concerned, um, since I've been working in web design, IT, project management for so long, I take a lot of those skills that I've learned from our counterparts in the industry, and I try to bring those to our culture so that we can have some benefits to that too. So I appreciate the opportunity to share that knowledge with everyone. So
See, I like that answer too, because you talk about how oftentimes we go into corporate America and, there's so much more than just getting a paycheck from corporate America. We can learn valuable skills from these businesses that are oftentimes leaps and bounds ahead of the businesses in our community. So the fact that you went in, you learned these skills, you developed these skills, you honed them, and now you've come back not only as a marketer, but now you're able to minister more effectively, not
yeah,
only brick and mortar, but leveraging social media and understanding the power of social media and bringing that forward. I wonder if I can ask y'all a couple more questions. You know, I know it wasn't an easy path to end up in your profession or your pursuit. Tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced on your way to becoming a lawyer, a minister, and a marketer. Brock.
Okay, sure. Well, in starting off with the practice, I'd say the biggest challenge was trying to build a reputation or build a name for myself as well as for my firm. A lot of times people are apprehensive about hiring someone of African American descent to represent them in a courtroom, especially when the individual is young. So I really had to spend a lot of time just marketing myself. I actually probably spent more time in the first couple of years marketing myself than I actually did practicing, just because I had to build up a client base. A lot of times I was, fighting really hard, sometimes taking on cases or trials without even getting equitable pay for my services, just because I wanted to create a reputation for myself.
Right.
And, I knew that once people saw the work and once people saw the hunger and the desire and the service that I was providing, that they would be appreciative of it and be willing to pay for it. But I had to first have that opportunity. And unfortunately, sometimes to get that opportunity, we may have to sometimes, and I'm not promoting it, but sometimes it's reality. We may have to do different things in order to create that opportunity.
Right. And I'm glad that you said that. You said, first of all, it took you a while to sort of build up a name for yourself. And then the second thing was that you had that experience where, our race oftentimes has some negative connotation to it until they find out that we can work or we can do the same amount of work, oftentimes providing greater value. So that first thing in really getting that name out there, that's where we can really leverage our community to say, hey, if you know someone from our community, let's use their service first. Let's call this lawyer first. Let's call Brock White first before we go outside of our community. And then the next thing we have to do is abandon that notion that the white man's ice is colder, right? Like I should be thinking first about value within my community and thinking positively about the value that's coming from the folks that are providing services and products, as opposed to thinking negatively about that. So to hear that you persevered through that also reminds me of the black tax that we often experience when we have to work twice as hard to get the reward. And it sounds like, we still encounter that. It sounds like you encountered that in your practice. So Julian, same thing, what were some of the challenges that you faced as a minister early on, and then also as a marketer in building your profession?
Well, a lot of it to me has to do with background and history. Has to do a lot of with the way we were structured as a culture. You know, basically, it was two things. Basically, you become good at something, whatever that is. You become good at that so that you can go work for somebody. Uh, um, Not knowing and understanding that your expertise, if packaged correctly, could actually benefit you better as a in a business format. But we don't have that mindset. We'll say, okay, go to school so you can get a good job. That's the mindset. Go to school, get a good job. Whereas, and we talked about this even in college, that we're sent to school to go get a good job. Our counterparts are sent to school to go to learn how to run a business and how to interact with people. So the mindset is different. If we had learned how to package all of that we learned and were taught, and be able to structure it in a way to where we can actually run a business with this expertise, a lot of us would have better experience and be able to have better reputations when it comes to having our own businesses out there. When it comes to church, and pastoring, we're taught in our culture that, boy, you better be able to preach well. Okay, you better be able to get up there and deliver a good word. We're not raised and taught to think about how to actually start and run a church, start and run a ministry from the ground up. Some of us learn how to take over a ministry from someone else, but we don't always learn how to start and plan a ministry in our culture. All the things that come with those things. We don't know how to start it from the ground up, and we take that same mindset in business, same in any business, because if you're going to run a church effectively, you have to have some business acumen to do that. And so, same thing with us when it comes to our small businesses. We are taught to go and have all this expertise to go help build somebody else's business, and not to go build our own. I was talking to my wife the other day. She was talking about how she was publicizing somebody else's company, and I said, I realized that you can take all of that effort that you're doing and take all the effort, all of those days and nights you're studying, all those times you're creating content for somebody else's business, that same amount of energy and content that you're creating, you can use that same energy and put it in your own business. It's the same effort. It's just now it's yours instead of somebody else's kingdom that you're building. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my mindset with that. So it's a restructuring, it's a rebranding and a reconstruction of your mindset.
And I'm glad that you said that, because now it really speaks to the condition that our entire community is under right now, right? We've all seen the meme floating around on social media that says, I got the job, and you get like 7,000 likes. And then you say, I started the business, and you get like 17 likes. And I think that our community is so accustomed to going against others, giving them our best years of our lives, giving them our knowledge, to stop for a moment and say, what can I do to build this within my own community? And how much more of a difference that would make within our community. So I'm really glad that you said that. I wonder if you could speak to also about just how do we rewire folks? What's it going to take for folks to change their mindset, to start thinking more independently as opposed to going the route of, say, corporate America?
It's going to take time to reevaluate exactly what our total values are. It can't be just about going after the mighty dollar that our counterparts want to give you. It's going to have to be, I want to support my community. It's going to have to be, I want to love on my community. It's going to have to be, I want to help build my community. The thought process is going to have to change to where, what legacy are we leaving? Are you leaving a legacy to where you worked for a corporate job, and retired? Or are you leaving a legacy to where I left something to my friends, I left something to my family, I left something to my children, I left something to my community that they can build upon? Because if we don't think that way, then 20, 30, 40 years from now, you may have no community to look to, because you never plugged into or poured into your own. We talk about the disparity. We talk about the injustice. We talk about how things are not fair for us. But a lot of times we don't take the time to pour into systems for us in order to build that and change that narrative. The narrative must change. We spent so much time being indoctrinated with the narrative that Black businesses don't do this. Black businesses don't do that. Can't do this. They can't provide this way. They don't do. I don't want to deal with these N-word businesses because I'm like, they don't do this, don't that. But you'll suffer. You'll suffer with Walmart doing you bad. You'll suffer with Popeyes running out of chicken. You'll suffer with all the other kind of things, but you won't suffer with your own community. If they make one mistake, you're out. But you'll suffer with the whole other counterparts doing it, because we give them the benefit of the doubt, because we've been taught to give them the benefit of the doubt. We have not been taught to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. But I still believe, as Black people, we still are the most forgiving, just not for ourselves. We forgive everybody else, but we don't forgive ourselves enough. And I think that needs to change. That culture, that mindset has to change first. It has to be a new indoctrination in order for us to change and start supporting one another. So.
No, man, I'm so glad you said that. Brock, I wonder if you can expound on that. He gave us a mighty word right there, but I know that there's more to it. In owning Mellott law, you have affirmed that, if one of your children goes to law, you have something that you can hand to them. Talk about, that leaving a legacy piece when it comes to the independent route.
Well, one of the things I see all the time, you'll be amazed at how many of our counterparts are able to walk into a situation where they already have a practice that was my, because my ambitions and my pursuits didn't line up with corporate America. But as I started practicing and as I started getting a client base and I started establishing wealth, I started seeing the benefits of it. I mean, one of my sons wants to go to law school and become an attorney, who'll be able to start off practicing without having to struggle like I did when I first started, because he already has something established for himself. And to kind of go back on what Pastor Julian was stating, I often say a lot of times we get too many of our ideas and our stereotypes and our beliefs from not only our own experiences, but from the media and from what people try to portray and try to tell us what we should believe. And one of the things that I promote is the benefits of it. Having your own business, it makes you get a better sense of self-worth, because you go to work and you're excited about it because it's yours. You're not punching the clock for somebody. You're not having to answer to anybody. This is yours. This is something that you're working for. If it succeeds, it's because of you. If it fails, it's because of you. If there's a bad day, it's because of you. But the thing is that you always have that opportunity to where, you can have something of value and you feel more of value because you're owning your own business.
And I'm glad you said that as well too, Brock. Y'all are hitting on all the points this morning. I went to school, I went to high school with guys whose dads owned the businesses. So when they went to college, they came home, they had a job waiting for them, So I look back on all those times, and folks had safety nets built up for them, for their children, to just inherit. And so those are some of the things that we need to be focusing on. I'm looking to the Facebook feed to see if we have any questions this morning. We do have a statement from one of our fellow members, Iceman. She says that changing mindset is a long game. Many of us are in survival mode. We have to be in thrive mode to leaving a legacy. And to me, that spells out that, Black people, we've gotten comfortable. We've gotten comfortable with the current situation. And we have to break comfort. We have to be willing to be uncomfortable and suffer some discomfort if we are to change our condition. And so, Julian, you touched on this earlier, where you talked about, leaving a legacy. What more do we have to feel and experience in order for us to say, you know what, wait a minute, let me stop doing what we're currently doing and let us do something different? What more do we have to experience in order to see that change?
Well, I think we've experienced enough.
Yeah,
I think we've
yeah.
experienced enough to want to change. And I did see that comment, and I really want to say this, because I know I agree. A lot of times we're working in survival mode, and the first thing I need to do, I need to get a job to stop the bleeding. I need to stop the bleeding. So let me get a job and start working so I can stop the bleeding, because I got to get in survival mode. But let me help you with that too. A lot of times with us, and we have to be honest with ourselves, we consume much more than we expend. We consume too much. And a lot of times we've consumed so much, it's put us in a place to where we stay in survival mode, because
Yeah.
we got a house we could not afford, we got cars we couldn't really afford, we buying clothes we shouldn't really be buying, and the thing is, if we're going to do the long game, the long part of the long game is suffering with enough to get by until we get to the place to where later on we can get the things that we want. But we can't come right out of high school or come right out of college and start getting big luxury cars and big luxury homes immediately. We need to take time to take the long pace ourselves to build up to that. You don't need a $500,000 house as soon as you graduate college.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine emailed me that the new Lincolns are like at $100,000 now. You don't need to go buy a Lincoln at $100,000. That is a house. You
What
know,
about the
you have to think about, huh?
when they come out? What about the new J's? Should I get the new J's?
You're gonna have to think about. Talking about thinking about the long game. You have to think about you. You don't need everything right now, and that's a hard concept for a lot of us. Is that we want everything right now. We don't want to work up to anything. We don't want to
Yeah.
build nothing. We want everything right now, and you can't do that. That mindset has to change.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I know that a lot of us still working. We look at when we go to college, we look at a lot of people look at the sports game as a way out. They're looking at that as the way of I'm able to break through. I go buy my house after I make it, whatever. But you still trapped in a system where you still waiting on somebody else to give you something.
Yeah.
And so again, that mindset has to change, and we have to be willing to suffer a little while. The scripture says that after we've suffered a little while, then he will establish us. He will strengthen us and make us perfect. But we have to be willing to suffer for a little while before we get to that place. So,
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if I can, brother Phillip, kind of piggyback on what Pastor Robinson was stating. I remember when I first started practicing, man. Remember I told you I wanted to do my own. I didn't want to work for anyone else. I mean, first 6 months I was working out my house. You know, I mean, I couldn't afford overhead. I couldn't afford a staff. I couldn't afford an office space at that point. I didn't have that type of wealth built up. Now, I know I had some friends who went and got out, loans or small business loans. I didn't want to get in debt for a business that hadn't even been established. So, I mean, I took a different approach. So, again, like Pastor was saying, if you're willing to stick with it and to stay motivated and to keep pursuing and keep going with it, even through the hard times, there's something at the end that's going to be much more.
Hey, Phil, I see a question here that I want to address. I see here as from Scott Harrell. It says, how do you teach restraint and spending habits to a generation that has never seen it?
Shout out to Scott Harrell, minister at Grace Hill Baptist Church. Grew up in Livingston, Texas. A great brother, very talented brother. He is a leader in our community. Appreciate the question, Scott. Jayla, you want to take that question?
Yeah, I start off with it. One of the ways I think about it is when you talk about a generation that's never seen it, you really got to talk to them about goals. You got to talk to them about how whether they see themselves. What do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you see yourself in 10 years? What do you see yourself in 20 years and 30 years? And what are you doing in order to get you there? Because like I said, they've never seen restraint, so you gotta probe their mind and ask them, say, have you thought about where you're going to be in the next 10 years? Have you thought about where you're going to be in the 20 years? What does that look like for you financially? What does it look like for you relationally? What does it look like for you as like you have to jog their mind to think where you're going to be at? Have you thought about longer this? Because see, we don't always, and going back to the same thing I said earlier that we don't always think about the long term. Because we're so caught up in survival mode right now. I want this, I want that. We have to teach them, hey, don't just think about right now. 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Even when I do marriage coaching, I ask the question. I say, what's your goal for 10 years? What's your goal for 20 years? What's your goal for 30 years? What does that look like? Have you even thought about it? Or are you only thinking about right now? You have to get them thinking. That mind, that brain that we have actually operates further than what we've used it for. You got to get that mind to thinking. What do you want to be like and look like 10 years, 20 years from now? And how are you going to get there? You got to get our community thinking along that line, more than just right now. That'll even help us when it comes to our investments. We'll invest better when we realize that we're not just thinking about right now. We have to push their minds to thinking about where you're going to be at in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have to agree with Julian on that one, Phillip. I often say that each generation there should be some growth, because we know more as we go forward. So what we should be exceeding what our parents did, our children should be exceeding what we're doing. And it starts with us. We have to make sure that they see the groundwork that we're doing, that they see the things that we're doing, so that they understand the stock market. They understand investments. They understand IRAs. They understand the importance of going out and working hard, if not for someone else, for yourself, and establishing their own. So they'll be able to have exceedingly and abundantly above all that we have.
That's good, man. That's good. That's good. And because I always feel like that I feel like our ceiling should be our children's floor. I'm saying it again, our ceiling should be our children's floor. And you said something really important, Brock, that I want to bring up, is that our children need to see us working.
That's right.
See us investing. See us, because how many times do we're working and we're doing something? We tell the children, go in the living room, go do this, go do that. Go watch a movie. Go do, and we push them out and push them away instead of inviting them to watch us in our process.
That's right.
I learned that I need to bring my kids in and let them watch us through our process. Let them see how I'm typing, see how I'm doing some online marketing and creating some content. They need to see some of that so they can learn that, hey, I can actually work through the process of some of this, and I don't have to just be handed something. Instead of sometimes, even when I'm studying for a sermon or a teaching, I let my kids come in and watch me study, so that they'll see the process. They need to see that. So
that's right.
I really like what both of y'all have said, and I would even add to this. I often ask myself, who would benefit the most in my family if I made X decision or if I made Y decision? Who would benefit the most if I do go to work and I work 8 hours, a week, and I get so many bonuses? Who benefits the most? And so when I ask myself that question, it's a lot easier for me to make certain decisions, to push hard, to be uncomfortable, to work in a situation like working for the BBFG, working for To the Table, knowing that there's a longer game to it. And it also helps me to understand I do need to practice some restraint in my spending, make sure I'm circulating dollars with Black-owned businesses. But I think that this generation doesn't have that sense of where they come from. And so when I think about, some of the sacrifices, our parents have made, I know both your parents made sacrifices for you as well as mine did for me. The forefathers that came before them, to me, I have that connection to that legacy. And so therefore, I want to see things change and be done differently. I don't think this generation, Scott Harrell, I don't think that this generation has a sense of connection to that past. And once you forget about the they've gone through, then it's so much easier for them to go out and just kind of be wasteful in their spending. So much easier for them to not have a sense of focus and moving forward into the future. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, unfortunately, Phil, I have to definitely agree with you. I think there is a disconnect when we talk about this generation and the past struggles that our people have had. And I think a lot of that has to do with they're not being taught. They don't know. because nobody's presenting it to them. Nobody's informing them of it. We're too busy letting social media and YouTube raise our kids as opposed to sitting down and talking with them about certain things and talking with them about things that they're going to face and challenges that they could face and things that may have occurred in the past. I mean, I can speak from personal knowledge, and it's almost embarrassing to admit this. We were at the house one day and we were talking about Huey Newton, and my son had no idea who Huey Newton was. I've mentioned the Black Panthers to him. He thought I was talking about the movie, and that's just reality. So, we had to go on a whole line. I had to stop immediately. Like, wait a minute, something's wrong. If you don't know who the Black Panthers are, something's not right. So, I mean, it's sad, but it's reality. I mean, there's a disconnect because they're not being taught.
It's up to us to do that. We cannot only rely on our school system to be our only kids' teachers. I think that that's a mistake that we have made, allowing only the school system as it is presented now to be the first and foremost teachers of our children. No, we are the first and foremost teachers of our children. It is our responsibility to pour into them and indoctrinate them with what we believe and our values and our core value. We have to do that. We can no longer allow, and we should never have done this, allow the school system to be the end and be all to what we believe and how we believe our culture should be structured. That is something that we have been very negligent and derelict at because we have not indoctrinated our children ourselves. Before they leave our house, they need to know our values. Before they leave our house, they need to know what we believe in. Before they leave our house, they need to know. I set my kids down and had them watch the movie about John Henry. I sit my kids down and say, listen, y'all need to watch this. Y'all just see this. We have to make sure that we are pouring into them. You cannot allow other people to pour into your children more than you pour into them yourselves. And I'm telling you, and we talked about this, Phillip, we talked about this, Brock, when it came to working in corporate America, we go and give the job the best of us. We come home and give our family and our children the rest of us. And I think that is a horrible thing. And I really feel like another reason why I really support us having our own business is not just for us personally, but for our children. So we have time to pour into them like we want to. We set our own schedule so that we'll be able to give them what they need. I am not in favor. I am no longer in favor of a 40-hour work week. I'm no longer in favor of 50 hours and 60 hours working for somebody else and then coming home and giving my children the rest of me when I'm tired and I'm irritable and I don't feel like doing this and I don't feel like doing that. We need to reset that mindset for the sake of our children, for the sake of our family. They need to know from us how that should be moving forward. So
I'm so glad that you said that, Jay. Y'all are really hitting on these points. Australia, Edinburgh, who's been a long time member of the BBFG, she said that the fight is harder to get our kids connected to our roots through the mainstream media. And I believe social media as well. And so, Jay, Pastor Robinson, I think you touched on that very well. And then Stephanie Lyons added in that we should begin teaching kids at a young age with reciting and teaching vocabulary. I think vocabulary about our community. Making our kids comfortable with big words and industry terms gives courage and pride, and it takes away fear of the unknown. So,
let me say that because I agree. I completely agree with her. But let me challenge the BFG. Where are those products from us? Where are those products? Where are those flashcards? Where are those coloring books that look like us that can teach them that? There ought to be somebody in the BBFG who is creative enough to have those type of items available for our children, for us to purchase to give to our children. So they have, again, those flashcards. They have flashcards to teach them about finances. They have coloring books that teach them about Black history. So they ask. I went and bought my daughter a book about Black hair, because I got tired of her, and I'm being honest with you, I got tired of her talking about Elsa. Yeah. I said, there will be no more Elsa conversations in my house. There will be no more Elsa watching in my house. I'm tired of hearing about Elsa. So I went and bought her a book, a book on black hair, because I wanted her to appreciate the hair that she had. And so I'm asking the BBFG, where are the products?
Yeah.
Where are those products so we can teach them about us, our culture? Because I don't want. I'm tired of hearing about Elsa.
Yeah.
I think we got to push to the Black Business Focus Group. We need more of the businesses that produce these products and services that give our children the empowerment, if you will, to go out and build our community out even further. Brock, you want to say?
Well, actually, I was laughing when Pastor Julian was talking about it, because I know my daughter, for Christmas, one of her family members wanted to buy her gift. My family already knows me and they know how I operate. I do not believe in buying my daughter Caucasian dolls, because I feel like she sees enough of that on television to where I'm not going to promote that in my house. I want her to have dolls that look like her, so that she knows that, hey, being black is being beautiful. Having curly, coarse hair is beautiful. Yes. I don't have to walk around and look like this little size 2 woman on TV with long blonde hair and blue eyes to have beauty.
Right.
And so, she thought it was odd that I had that, that feeling or that belief behind it. Because in her mind, she's like, well, it's only a doll. I'm like, look, it's not a doll. It's the principle of the matter. I don't want my baby growing up having somebody else tell her what's beautiful and what's not.
Right. There's so much programming that goes into these products that are being pushed onto us. And, if we're not careful, they will have us thinking that black is ugly, black is negative, black is built into every negative word that's out there just about. Mm-hmm. So we have to be mindful of what is said to our children. I want to shout out to Janae Henry, who was one of the members of our very first, the Black Business Focus Group's very first attempt to actually get out and support Black-owned businesses, and that was Black restaurant and food truck. We were the first ones to get out there and attempt that. Shout out to Fave Media and what they're doing today. But Janae Henry is the owner of Cool Runnings, which is a Jamaican eatery out there. And so I really do appreciate her for tuning in today. But she said that they have flashcards for their children, and that they are great products. So I think that we need to start doing that. We need to start focusing in on that and really empowering our children. Next thing I want to talk about real quick is you guys. And I wonder if you guys can remember back in November 2015 when we first started this group. And initially we just wanted to, connect Black consumers with Black-owned businesses. But I think in the last 5 years, this group has grown to do so much more. And so I wonder if you guys can just kind of talk about some of the benefits that you've seen over the last couple of years to our community, to your respective businesses and brands. What does it represent to you, the Black Business Focus Group, as well as to the table?
Okay. First thing comes to my mind when you mentioned the Black Business Focus Group as well as to the table is, again, like I said, opportunity. A lot of times we have businesses who provide quality services who most people just don't know exist. And I believe that this platform gave people an opportunity to have their business be magnified to where people would know about their business. Like you mentioned, we did the Black-owned restaurant week. I thought that was one of the best things ever. I mean, we had restaurants who most people will probably never had being patronized. And I think we even had people run out of product because they were overwhelmed with the number of people they had and the number of customers they had, because they weren't used to having that type of customers, that many customers in that short of a time period. And so I thought that was wonderful that we did it. I believe it was, a great thing. And that's what this is all about, is giving people that look like us, who own businesses, an opportunity to provide their services so that other people can become aware of it.
And I want to add to this too. Talking about technology, I think we introduced a lot of people to the ability to use Facebook ads in our community, because they've always existed, but they don't always see the power of it because they don't use it. They don't understand the technology. But what I loved about it was the fact that we all came together and we listed different restaurants from different areas that you can go to so wherever you are, here's a restaurant, here's a food truck that you can go to right now this week and go patronize this restaurant. And you and we and it's just a great way to we're able to combine our monies in one pot, and it was able to advertise all these different areas in one pot of money, one pool of money. And I would think about if we can do these type of things to where we pick an industry every month, a different industry every month, and say, hey, we're going to select these 10 companies or these 20 companies, and we're going to pool our money together and advertise in one Facebook ad the different areas where people can go and don't have to go far to that respective restaurant in your area, or that respective hair salon, or that respective bakery, or whatever it is, and that area can help pool us together. That it helps bring us together and gives us community and support one another. So we see how we can really engage and help each other. And I think the biggest thing to me for the BBFG has been the engagement, because I'm gonna tell you, there are a lot of groups on Facebook where you can go and post your business, and you'll see people posting and posting and posting and posting and posting and posting and posting. One thing that the BBFG has excelled on is the fact that you also include the engagement piece. We engage with one another. If I put on top of in the BFG that I need this or I need that, I have several people answer and say, hey, I know this place, I know that place, I know this place, I know about this place. So we have the engagement there to where people can say that I'm going to support you. I have gotten business because of the BBFG. Other people have gotten business because of the BBFG. So it's the engagement piece that I think supersedes a whole lot of other areas. And it's not just about one company winning. It's about the community winning.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I definitely have to agree on that. Matter of fact, I think I was even mentioned to the Phil how in that 2018 election here in Harris County, we had a lot of people use the platform of the BBFG and help them to win their respective positions.
Right. Yeah. You might remember back, 2018, we had the Harris County judges. I think it was like some 16, 18 sisters that, won judgeships. And
That's right.
a lot of those folks promoted their campaigns in the Black Business Focus Group and the Black Politics Focus Group that we also have. So I was real proud to see that. Not to say that that's what helped them win, but I think that it was a respected platform enough for folks to really say, hey, there's some like-minded folks out there that want to see transformation in our community. Something that you said too, Jay, and I'm gonna try to tie this together with the dollar and the vote. The Black community spends 1.3 trillion consumer dollars annually, and less than 2% of those dollars makes its way back to Black-owned businesses. And what we started doing in the Black Business Focus Group to the table, we started measuring our impact on Black-owned businesses. So if you go out and you make a purchase from a Black-owned business, whether it's a product or a service, you can log that into the table. And then every month we aggregate that up and we can demonstrate how much we've circulated within our community, not spent, but circulated within our community. And so over the last couple of years, we've circulated over $1.2 million with Black-owned businesses. And, you think about a group of 13,000 consumers, 13,000 folks that are also business owners, we can really create an economy for ourselves that will help to serve future generations, from here on. So we've got to be smart about that and make sure that we do everything that we can to spend our dollars there. And then with the vote, two things that are going to transform our community is where we put our dollars and then who we vote for. And so for Black and brown folks in some of these offices that directly impact us at the local level, at the state level, and then of course at the federal level, we can actually start making changes for ourselves instead of going out and begging others to transform our community for us. I wonder what you guys think about that.
Well, I mean, I would totally have to agree. I mean, that's where it all starts. I mean, I always say that it starts at home. If we can't take care of our own community and take care of home, then what good are we doing anybody else on the outside? I often say the measure of worth is how strong are you and how strong is your home? How strong is your home base? So we have to start taking care of our own community and taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're looking out for ourselves. You know, everybody else wants to push everybody else's agenda, but nobody wants to push our agenda. And you know what? It's not their job to push our agenda. That's our job. We can't put people in positions and expect them to push an agenda that they don't even know about or may not even understand. We have to take that into our own hands and push it ourselves by putting people in places who we know look out for us, who look like us, who are going to do things that we line up with and that we have the same beliefs with.
Right.
Yep. And you know, we talk about this whole epidemic now, the COVID-19 epidemic, and some businesses are struggling because of it. But I'm gonna tell you something. I don't think that the Asian community is going to struggle. I don't think that the Hispanic community is going to struggle. You know why? Because they've already committed to the mindset of our money is going to bounce in our community 8 to 12 times before it goes out. You know, whereas we as consumers in the Black community, we go out and spend our money with everybody else, and then maybe I'll think about spending my money in a Black business later on. You know, but if we change that mindset to where we're supporting one another, because right now there's somebody that might be somebody listening on this live right now. There may be somebody in this group right now who's considering closing their business because of what's going on right now. Not knowing, because they have no avenue, because nobody can leave the house, no one can support my business. They're not structured in a place to where they can do everything, switch gears and put everything online or whatever. So they need a place like this to come to and ask for help and get support in this way. They need to know that, hey, their community is going to reach out to them and say, hey, we're going to buy your product, we're going to buy your service, and we're going to help you in some kind of way to bring you to a place of a virtual instance or digital instance to where some things can be sold from your company so that you can survive these months or these weeks or however long it's going to be throughout this epidemic, so you don't close your doors. You don't have to stop your business from succeeding because of a crisis. So and if I can say this, one of the things that I think that should be done, is if you have, and it's going back to thinking about community, if you have a business and you think you're suffering right now, you feel like you're suffering right now, go back to your customer base. You should have some type of contact list there where customers you've already serviced, and try to see if you can develop some type of referral program with them, customers that you've already serviced, to see if you can hold on throughout this storm. Because one thing we don't need to happen is Black businesses closing because of this. Because the dollars that have been given through the PPP, the dollars that have been given through the EIDL, EIDL pretty much is empty. They're gone. That money is gone. But then you have the PPP, and we've already understood that the PPP, those dollars that went out, only 3% of them went to Black businesses. So you already have a disparity there. You already have an issue there already. So you're going to have to go back to your community and ask your community to help you. Part of your community is your customer base, your hot market, your warm market that is already purchased from you. Go to them and create you a quick referral program. Hey, do you know anybody that needs our services? We're providing a discount to this, and then we have a referral program that if you know anyone who needs this service, if they purchase, you'll get 10%, or you'll get a free product, or you'll get a free services. You got to do something to weather this storm right now. And one of the things you do is go back to your community to help you get through this storm. That's the reason why we have family. Listen, let me help you. And this is biblical. You don't have brothers and sisters to be your friend. And I want to help you today. Your brothers and sisters were not created for you by God to be your friends. You choose your friends. You don't choose your family. Your family, your brothers and sisters are there for the times of adversity. They're there for the times of struggle. They're there for the times when you're going through, so you can fall back on your family and your community when you have struggle. Your friends are there because those are the ones you pick. Y'all talk all the time. Y'all hang out or whatever all the time. But your family is there in time of adversity. So this is the time when you go back to your family, you go back to your community, and you say, hey, I need a little assistance here. How can we pull together and weather through this storm? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Amen.
And we have 5 minutes left on this feed, and there's a couple of things that we couldn't talk about everything today, but you guys touched on some really great points. But I really want, for those folks that are watching and that will watch later, what are the challenges? What do you challenge the BBFG members, individual members, whether they're consumers or businesses or both? What do you challenge them to do? Pastor Jay, you just talked about, we only receive 3% of the dollars coming from the federal government. We know that, we're not, sending our dollars to our Black-owned businesses. Less than 2% of our dollars are going to Black-owned businesses. Brock White, we know that there's this stigma about Black-owned businesses. What do you challenge everybody that can, hear the sound of your voice today to do to support the Black community right now in these last 5 minutes?
I would say my challenge would be is to, number one, if you're a Black business owner, to weather the storm and be persistent, stick with it. I know it's tough right now. We're all feeling the economic impacts of what's going on right now, but weather the storm and stick with it. Don't close your doors. Do everything you can to make sure you keep your doors open and to make sure that you still desire to keep your business going forward. As far as the consumers, I would say to make sure that you circulate your dollars with those businesses. Make sure that you help them keep their doors open. If you have money or you decide to, go out and do something, or you decide to order in something, or you decide to order something, make sure that you try to do that with a Black-owned business. So that way the money is circulating in the community. Like Pastor Julian said, the Asian community, the Hispanic community, they're not worried about that right now because they know that they're going to have their wealth, even though it may not be to the numbers that they're used to, they're still going to have some because they're going to keep their money in their community. They're going to keep their money amongst themselves. We have to do the same. We can't go out and spend money or circulate money in areas where people don't even care about us. It doesn't make any sense for us to do that.
Yeah. Simple answer is buy Black. Buy Black. What I have practiced ever since, and we started doing this, if there's a service or a product I need to purchase or want to buy, I try to look for a Black-owned business that supplies it first. That's what I do. I said, let me find out if there's a Black-owned business that supplies this service or this product first. I look at and see if they have good reviews, because I believe in having a good Black-owned business support a good Black-owned business. So I see if there is somebody that has this business already out there that I can support them first. And if I can't find them on my own, I will ask a question in the BBFG. If I still can't find them, then I'll go somewhere else. But I'm always looking to see where I can find a Black-owned business to support first. Because I believe in our community. Because like I said, once we're gone, what happens? And we're already in an epidemic to where it can consider to have the Black dollar to be almost non-existent by 2050. Is it 2050 or 2060? They're saying that the Black dollar could be gone or non-existent economy. Say again?
2050, where net wealth in the Black community will drop below zero.
Yeah. So that and let me say this too. I am not afraid, and I know that we talk about a lot of times when we talk about supporting the Black community, it spills over into the minority community. I'm not afraid to say, I'm not saying today to support, I'm not knocking you for supporting minorities, but when I say I'm looking for a Black-owned business first, I'm looking for a Black-owned business first, not a minority-owned business first. There is a difference there. There is a difference there.
There is a difference.
Ask the question, did minorities, were minority slaves or were Black folk slaves?
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know, because it seems like we want to help minorities do all of this stuff, but nobody really did the work that our ancestors did. No one, went without compensation the way that our ancestors did. And so I think that, that's one of the things that we have to start looking at. That's another conversation for another day. But gentlemen, thank you guys for our very first voices of the Black Business Focus Group. You guys as the founders of this group, it means a lot for you to come before, you know, all the folks that are listening here today and that will watch later on. I really do appreciate your time on this Saturday morning, your intellect, your knowledge, the history, the experience, all of that. I really do appreciate it. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask our pastor to say a prayer as we close out.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, God in heaven, Lord, we thank you for this opportunity, Lord, you've given us, Lord, over this digital space to come and support one another, to help build our community, Lord. We're grateful, Lord, for the hearts and the minds of the people who are here with the same type of goal, same type of mindset to really want to see our community build. You've already instilled in our community so many talents and so many gifts, Lord, that some of us know about and some of us don't, God. We're asking God to expand on us, help us to expand on each other, show love once again, Lord, so that we can build our community for your glory and for your purpose and for your will. Do it for your glory and touch our hearts, touch our minds as we build, God, to pour back into ourselves, God. Help us to pour back in as well as produce those businesses, Lord, that are premier, so that people will be running and chasing after these businesses, Lord. We pray for all these businesses. We lift them up, God, that they will have the greatest service, so that people, it won't be a question of whether or not we should use this business. We'll be flooding. They have a flood of customers, a flood of money is going to them, God, to help build and sustain our community. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having us, man.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you chose Phillip, and I want to say this about Phillip Dunn before we leave. It is his vision that has made all this possible. All these folks out here in the BBFG, the mindset, the engagement that we are experiencing, the people having connections, businesses growing. It was his brainchild to do this, and he stirred up a lot of people to push them to support one another. So I want to say kudos to you, Phillip Dunn, because you have been a leading force in this, in what we've been doing. I want to say, man, thanks so much, and you deserve a whole lot of accolades and pats on the back because of your push. And I want to encourage you to keep on pushing, keep on moving forward, because we are with you. I believe the BBFG is with you, has your support. It's your heart that permeates through the BBFG, because as you shown your love and your level of engagement, that is bled over into other people to show their love and their engagement. So kudos to you for that. Keep going, keep pushing.
Yeah. Phil, I mean, definitely, I appreciate the opportunity also this morning. Thank you for inviting us to speak on your platform today. I have to agree with Pastor Julian, Phil. I mean, you're one of the most dedicated brothers I've ever met. You work hard, tirelessly with this, and I mean, you're seeing the fruits of your labor. That's all I can say. And I want to encourage you to keep going forward. There's higher heights to be seen.
Brothers, I appreciate y'all. This is truly a team effort, you know, from those early morning phone calls we used to have to
Yes, sir.
Really hammering these things out, meeting at Brock's office, meeting at Jay's house. It's a team effort. And thankfully, we have 13,000 people, you know, working side by side now. So you guys
I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to my wife, Kiana Robinson, who cooked us our very first meal at our very first meeting, and made sure that we had everything we needed. I got to give her a shout out for that.
Oh my God!
What's she doing?
We are not here to try to help you get around the corner.
No, brothers. Y'all have a great Saturday. Love y'all. Talk to you later.
All right, brother.
Love you too, man.
Love you,
Bye.
man.